Hey guys, I'm Prodigy from Kilo23. Welcome back. Today, I'm just kind of doing this for fun this evening. I had a little bit of time, so I thought, what the heck, I'm just gonna make another video. And I had something I wanted to touch on here. You can go to Big Five, or you can go to all these different little sporting goods stores. I'm sure in the East Coast or whatever, you got your own little assortment of sporting goods. Up here, we got Big Five, we got Joe's now, I think it's called, and we got a couple others. But you can get inexpensive airsoft, well, not inexpensive, but cheap airsoft guns there. Sometimes they're good, sometimes they're okay. One of the more popular ones that a lot of them are probably going to carry is the Kalashnikov AK-47. It's distributed by, I want to say Palco, I think it's licensed by Cybergun, one of those kinds of guns. You'll probably pay about $200 or so for one of these. And they're not awful. They're really not. They're actually pretty solid. Their gearboxes are not bad. Do not run a LiPo on them or they will explode. 7.4 is fine, 11.1, boom. I'll know it because there will be a mushroom cloud. So next month, late May, I'm going to be going to the MilSim West event. And, I want to bring probably 2 guns in case one goes down, I want to have a backup or something. So that's why, I found this gun it's kind of the same story as my King Arms M4 that I just did a review on. Found this for $50, brand new. I figured, it's not the greatest gun in the world, but for $50, I've got enough spare parts here, I can make it a pretty decent gun. And they're really not that bad out of the box as it is. I figured, what the heck, it's light, it's inexpensive, and it'd be actually a pretty decent backup gun, just in case all else goes down. And so I picked it up, and this video really, I'm just going to go over what I'm going to do to it. I'm not going to do too much, I'm not going to put any extra money into it. It's just spare parts I'm going to throw in there, regular modifications I'm going to make. Probably shimming. I'm guessing it's got plastic bushings, but we'll check it out when we open it up and see what's in there. AOE correction, servo pad, reshim, obviously, re-grease, just basic things. And if I have a spare spring guide or something, or a slightly heavier spring so I can get it closer to 400, then cool. Obviously the orange flash hider's coming off. Aside from that, I do like that it comes with the metal flash hider, that's great. Still came with the box, the high cap mag, which I cannot use at MilSim West, so I've got some, I'll be getting a bunch of mid-cap mags, so it'll be a lot of fun. It's kind of nice, came with a cheap little battery. Obviously I've never used them because they really don't last very long. Little charger, cleaning rod. I've got a whole bundle of them this big. It's great, so an extra cleaning rod's always nice. But aside from that, let's go open this gun up real quick and see what's in it, and I'll just go over the internal modifications I'm going to make. It'll be we'll see how long this video will be. It won't be super long, but be some good little tidbits and details in here you guys might like. Alright, now we have the whole gun apart. Obviously there's a lot of things I'm going to touch on. These guns, I'll just start off by saying I do maintain they are assembled by monkeys in China. I'm going to go over a couple things here, and I guarantee you they are not put together by humans. Monkeys are trained to assemble these guns because there are funky things that'll crop up. It's really, really funny, actually. Like, the most amazing thing I have seen is this right here. This is a shim. It was actually sitting inside the motor cage, and that's not supposed to be there. So I'll be opening that up and removing that and throwing it out because the shim is now bent. So I suppose the first thing I'll talk about is the wiring and the motor and such here. A lot of guns do have the 2 Tamiya connectors, one to the battery and one to the gearbox here, and this is the back of the gearbox, as you can see. I'll probably be bridging these. I find that the wiring usually in the back here is actually the same gauge as the wiring up front. It's just thicker coating, and it's usually, the stuff in the back is copper and the stuff in the front is usually it's very similar as far as the metal goes. It's very, very similar in gauge and material. So I usually just I snip these off and I splice them together, and I usually make them one. And that usually knocks a little bit of resistance off the whole circuit here. Now the motor that came in this, I'm not going to remove it from the cage in the video here because it's kind of a pain to open up with the camera in focus. Still got the shim here, and I'll remove that obviously before I put it back together. But it's not a bad motor. You find these in a lot of guns. The rate of fire isn't really amazing on them, but they do have a decent amount of torque. You can pop a 120 spring on this and it'll pull it just fine. It doesn't feel like it has a whole lot of torque, but it actually does, believe it or not. They maintain their lack of heat for quite a while. They don't heat up very fast at all. They do have the D-hole pinion on top. Not my favorite thing in the world, but to be honest, the pinion's really not that bad. It's kind of like Cyma quality gears. They're actually not really bad at all. You can see that I've got the hop-up filling engaged here, and it's kind of got the H fin bucking in there. These are pretty common among a lot of less expensive Chinese guns. It gets a pretty good seal. It's fairly accurate. I'm going to test this out and see how I like it. Usually they seem to work really well on cheaper guns. You put them in nicer guns and they don't work out that well. But I might throw a Mad Bull blue bucking in there or something. I've got a few of those, and I've got a red bucking sitting around somewhere. So I'll test this out and see how it works, and if it's not up to my liking, I'll probably just throw a Mad Bull blue in there. And it's kind of hard to see with the lighting, but the gun does have a brass barrel in there, which is great. As long as you're not getting like a cheap aluminum barrel like the G&G combat machines, it's pretty good. And it does actually go out nearly to the end of the flash hider here, which is actually a really nice touch. A lot of guns, they don't go through the flash hider. Your BB can hit the inside of that. That's not good. But this one extends all the way through there like it should to get you good and consistent results. So that's actually a pretty good plus. I'm surprised. Now, the gun does include a mini 8.4 volt battery, and the connector in the stock is a mini. Obviously, I'll be swapping that to Dean's after I splice all the connectors together with the wiring and whatnot. But you see that there's actually some foam in here, and that's really meant to keep that 8.4 volt mini battery secure in there. Now, I'll be running, I think it's a larger 7.4 battery. I picked it up at Hobbytown, USA year and a half ago or so. And I'll be running that in there. It's I think it's at 4,100 milliamp hour. It's like $40 or so. It wasn't very expensive. But that'll actually fit really nicely in there. And for a backup gun to have a really big battery like that, it'll be very, very nice. So the foam's going in the trash. Now, I've seen a couple of different versions of these internals before. Most of them do have, all the kind of the standard steel gears, decent, the port on the pit cylinder is in the correct spot for the barrel length, which is really nice, actually. It's got, I believe it's a 247 millimeter barrel, and it's just in the right spot there. So I chronoed the gun earlier, getting roughly maybe like 357 to 362. It's got about a 4 to 5 FPS variance, so right around that 360 mark. Pretty consistent for a gun like this out of the box. But I hope you guys are ready to brush your teeth, because you get a bunch of the green toothpaste grease in here, and there's just a lot of it in there. So obviously that's going to get cleaned out. One thing I do like is they do use a slightly thinner grease around the piston. It's more of a clear, almost grease. It's opaque, more or translucent, more like. Just a different grease. It's nice that they do that, but obviously it's all going to get removed. The shimming on the gears is more ratio-like than anything. They give every gun the same shim ratio on every gear, like one shim on top, one shim on bottom, and they just send it to go. Obviously, the gears need a serious shim job because the gun really sounded pretty awful out of the box. Now, on a lot of these cheaper Chinese guns that you might pick up at Big 5 or similar sporting goods stores, you do get grease in all the wrong places, specifically the switch assembly, so I highly recommend cleaning that out. I have had guns where grease can get on the top contacts and interrupt the electrical flow, and it renders the gun useless, so make sure you clean that out, definitely. Some other things I'll probably do, obviously shimming, re-grease. I'll probably put a bearing spring guide in here because I think I've got a spare version 3 sitting around. It's always nice to have a metal spring guide, especially a version 3 instead of a plastic. These fins on the side here love to break off. Even if you're not shooting high FPS or high rate of fire, it's just plastic pressure spot. It's not the greatest thing. All the compression parts in here never are that bad at all, actually. The piston, second to last tooth is not removed. You've got your one metal tooth in here, which is really all you need if you're shooting. This gun's shooting 360. I'm not going to have it shoot hotter than that, and that's great. And you've got your ported piston head, which is really nice, and I'm going to clean my hands now with a paper towel because they're very, very greasy. Now, as far as gearbox upgrades go and just tuning, I really haven't done a whole lot. I've got most of it done. I'm still going to get the wiring done here. And one thing I really like about these gearboxes actually is that they do come with 7mm steel bushings. And they're not bearings or anything. They've got the kind of the cross in them, as you can see. It's supposed to help distribute grease more evenly, but I've honestly never noticed that it does. But honestly, metal over plastic any day. So that's kind of a big plus for me. Aside from that, I've got the angle of engagement corrected. I removed the second to last tooth there and a little bit of the third to last. You can see I've got some Teflon tape here. And I've also installed a sorbo pad, and that's how I'm correcting the angle of engagement. Now, I know I've talked about this before, but you can get really inexpensive sheets of sorbothane, and you just cut it yourself using a cylinder of some kind and just hammering it. It's really, really simple. It's not very expensive. You can find it wholesale very cheap, but I got mine off Amazon for about 30 bucks. It's a sheet about a foot long by about 6 or 7 inches, I believe, and that was about $30, and I'm able to make over 150 servo pads off of it, and you never will have to spend $5 on a servo pad again doing that. Alright, I've got my Dean's connectors installed, I've got the wiring all finished, I've got the gun reassembled. Let's go ahead and take it to the chrono here and see how it's shooting. I'm using 0.2s with a 7.4 volt large type battery, the one I'm going to be using on the field when I'm using the gun. And let's try some full auto. It's not going to be super fast with a 7.4 volt though. About 14 rounds a second or so. Not super fast, but this battery's going to last a long, long time. Cool, guys. Thanks for watching. I'm Prodigy from Kilo23. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. It's always fun doing little things like this. It doesn't take a whole lot of time to film these and edit them together, so I figure, what the heck. You guys really enjoy them, and I enjoy making these. So stay tuned for next time. Also, check out my Facebook page. I'll put a link in the description to that below, and I always put a lot of cool pictures on there. A lot of people like them. I share them around. They're pretty cool. I'll have a lot of fun doing that. So check that out if you want to. Thanks, guys. Take it easy.